Hi folks, how y'all doing? Just trying to get a little bit of time to get back at some of these videos for you. So we said we'd do one here, just a little bit of an information video. Just a couple of faults in there recently, and we often get either referred from other garages or maybe customers had an ongoing issue where something was done with the car, etc., and still have no luck with it. That ask us to look into it then. So we often find what happens is that what's referred to as being a diagnosis is not actually a diagnosis. It's oftentimes just like a plug-in, and either the customer or someone else may read the code and just replace a part on what they've seen in front of them, and it's just not the correct way of doing things. It's really that what that is reading code and then taking your best guess. So it's not going to give an accurate fix. So I said I'd just quickly go through this fault that we had. This one in particular was for a faulty mass airflow. Okay, that's what the code read. But it turns out it was actually an EGR valve problem. But why did the engine ECU flag a fault for the mass airflow? Sorry about the dog barking. I'll just quickly go through the system, how it works, and give you an idea of this. Now, don't take this as being gospel. When you see, if you happen to read a code some stage, we're not saying that, no, it's not that code. It can be that component, but the point being here is that you do not replace parts on just reading codes alone. There's a procedure to follow, to get to the correct answer. And as in this particular case, we were having fault flagged for mass airflow, but that wasn't the case. So I just drew a little diagram here and I'll just go through it with you. So this is just a very crude sort of depiction of what's going on here. Okay, obviously there's a lot of elements, systems on the engine and the car that we're leaving out of this, and what the reason being is that we just really want to focus here on a couple of key components. Okay, so as I said, we had a mass airflow fault. Okay, so this here is the mass airflow. So where it's located is, you'll have an air breather or a filter. Okay, air comes in, it passes through the mass airflow sensor. The mass airflow sensor essentially calculates air by mass, so the quantity in mass of air entering the inlet manifold and in turn going into the engine. So that's its job. Okay, and obviously you have an input here to your engine ECU. Engine ECU, what it does is it analyzes inputs and then controls the outputs. So in other words, for example, it's getting a reading here from a sensor that it's not getting enough fuel. It'll control the fuel injection, okay, to increase the fuel and get what it needs to see. If it doesn't see changes happening properly, it sees something unexpected, what happens is it flicks on your EML. So that's your little fault light that's on your dashboard that everyone's quite familiar with. So as I said, in this case, it was reading the mass airflow. I was going, hold on there, something not right here. Flick on my light. So it threw up a fault for the mass airflow. So what was actually going on was the EGR was at fault here. Now, what is an EGR? An EGR basically is a valve. It's an exhaust gas recirculation is what EGR stands for. Okay, the EGR valve here, okay, is the valve that controls how much exhaust gas is allowed back in to the inlet side of the engine. Okay, it's an emission control. In its most basic term then, I suppose, is that the exhaust gas is recirculated in to mix with the inlet gases, and when they go back in the engine, it reduces NOx gases in the engine. Okay, so we won't get into the science of that now, but that's basically what it does. But this lad here is controlling the amount of gas returning back into the engine. So if you have an issue here, okay, say for example, this is meant to be closed off, okay, in theory you should have no gas coming in here. Okay, the engine is requiring a certain amount of air to enter into it to carry its function. Okay, so the engine ECU will be expecting X amount of air to travel past this point and into here. Okay, however, if this is open, okay, and the engine is not expecting it to be open, the X amount of air here will be reduced, because obviously there's exhaust gas going in here. There's only so much volume we can get in here. Okay, so the amount that's seen by the mass airflow will reduce because of the fault here. And in turn, what happened then was the engine ECU said, hold on a second, there's something wrong here because I'm not seeing what I should, and it flagged it as a mass airflow fault. So obviously then, if you're jumping to a conclusion of what you're going to do, you're going to change this. Okay, But what you actually need to do is that, okay, you need to confirm the fault, okay, which we did. Then we moved on to, obviously there is an assessment with the customer as well. Prior to all this, we get a history of it and how the car is driving, etc., and how long it's been happening. But yeah, we check and confirm the fault is current. Then we start analysing data, okay, so the data is being read, so the inputs are on here, which there's many of them, okay. We start looking at this on the engine ECU. So our computer is basically plugged into here, and we're reading all these data, and we're seeing, okay, look, we're not getting to see what we're expecting here, okay. And then that led us on to think, right, something wrong here. Is it a mass airflow sensor, or is there something else going on? Now, I won't get into the whole testing procedure, but we've basically went then to the next step. We decided, right, the path we need to take is to confirm whether or not the amount of air that's going in here and what's actually being read by this are the same, okay. And then obviously to see if we had any issues with leaks, of which I suppose you could call this a leak, because in theory what it's doing is allowing gases to be drawn in from somewhere that the engine ECU is not expecting. And when we tested that, that's where we found issue down here with the EGR. So again, as I said, the issue was not with the mass airflow, it was actually an EGR valve fault. Sometimes it's just a case of, in an EGR, it's a case of having to clean it out, etc. But in this case, it was actually shot, so it did need to be replaced. But not a cheap part, okay. But the thing was that this sensor was over 200 quid, okay, that was fitted on the car, and it wasn't needed. So there was time spent looking into it. There was the fitting of it, and then the price of the part, which wasn't required. You know, whereas if it had been done correctly, read the fault, diagnose the fault, replace the part, and confirm fix. Yes, it did cost money, but now we've had previously a mass airflow sensor which wasn't required, and all that labour there, and the actual fix. So you see where we're coming from now. That's the shortened version of what was going on there, like, you know. But as you can see, like, yeah, there was a fault there. There was a fault read, okay, and you can have the best code readers in the world, and you can have the cheapest code reader in the world. It doesn't matter. The codes that you're reading are only a guide as to where you should be looking next, and that's all we use them for, okay. We're never going to plug something up. Oh, there you go. That's what's wrong. Throw a part at it. Is that going to work out? That's no good, like, you know. So you need to confirm it, then you need to test it, and obviously then you decide where to go after that. So I hope that makes a bit of sense. So yeah, okay, you might be able to buy your code reader for 20 quid online or in the shop, whatever it is, like, you know. Bear in mind that we see it the whole time we get cars come in, will you fit this, will you fit this? We say no. That's the reason we don't do that. It does get some people's backs up because they think, oh, you just want to charge me for a diagnosis. That's not the case, okay. We want to be good at our job, and how we do that is that we control the work that comes into our workshop, so we take charge of that job. Okay, so you might have had a diagnosis somewhere else, you may even have plugged it in yourself, but we cannot go off your diagnosis or someone else's. We have to see it and confirm ourselves to make sure that the fix is right for you. Yeah, so I hope that makes sense. And so next time, don't be offended, as I said, if you have a code read somewhere else and we say different. You know, there is a reason for it. We're trying to do our best to do the job right for you. As we say, we look after you and your vehicle. Okay, thanks for watching. See you all.